Google just released a new feature that makes building RAG AI agents incredibly easy. In this video, I'll show you step-by-step how you can build your own AI agent in Python using the new Gemini file search tool. I was able to build a production-ready AI agent in under an hour using this new API. I'll provide a link to all of the code in the description below, so let's dive in. So let's quickly take a look at the application that we're going to be building today. So this is an AI agent that you would build to handle customer support questions. This is a really common use case for AI in the business world where a customer might want to ask a question, but you don't want to have staff available 24/7 to answer really basic questions. And you also want to ensure that your customers get their answers really, really quickly. So this is a very common use case for AI in the business world. So let's ask a question. So what products do you offer? Okay, so it's listing out some information about some of the products we have, and then we can ask a more general question. So these are the documents that I uploaded. I have just basically fabricated this document. It's a fictional tech company, and then we have a bunch of information about shipping and returns and payments, etc. So let's see if we can find a question to ask. So yeah, we can talk about maybe if we want to ask about a warranty. Do your products come with a warranty? Okay, cool. And it's pulled out the right information. Maybe we also want to contact customer support. How do I contact customer support? Give me the email address. Okay, and then it's pulled out the correct information. So you can see how powerful this is for users to get answers to questions really, really quickly. And you can also see how powerful this is for a business because they no longer need to have people available 24/7 to answer these kind of really common questions. Let's just do one more example. Let's talk about maybe a student discount. Do you offer a student discount? Okay, so yeah, students get 10% off most products and free shipping on orders over $50. So this looks correct to me. Okay, so before we start looking at code, let's take a look at the file search tool documentation. So this was the blog post that announced the new file search tool. And as you can see, this is essentially a fully managed RAG system built directly into the Gemini API. And what it does, it abstracts away the entire retrieval process so you can focus on building. Essentially, this is a managed vector RAG system that you can use, and you can use it through an API. So there's no complexity here about setting up your own vector databases. This is just really, really simple to plug in and use, and it scales really well, and it's also incredibly cheap. So you only pay for creating the embeddings when you first index your file. And Google are really going after the pricing here. It's only 0.15 per million tokens, and that's all you pay for. You don't actually pay for storage. So I think Google are being quite aggressive on pricing here. So how it works is a powerful vector search tool. It uses a state-of-the-art Gemini embedding model. This is just semantic search only, so this is just vector-based search. It has support for built-in citations, and it also supports a bunch of different formats, so PDF, documents, JSON, text, whatever you want to throw at it. You can upload all of your documents into a file store, and then you can use the Gemini API to query those documents. This is the documentation for the API itself. So we're going to be using the Python API in this video to build our own AI agent. And the API is really well documented. You're going to need the Google Gen AI client that you need to install. And as you can see, the operations are pretty simple. There's only 3 operations you need to understand really when it comes to this new tool. So we need to initialize a client, and then we need to, first we're going to create a file store. This is essentially a bucket that you put all of your files into, and you will give it a display name. And then the next thing you want to do is upload your documents into that file store. You can add a display name, and you can also add some additional metadata if you want. So for all of your files, you just call this API, and then you can upload all of your documents. And then you can just use the Gemini client to ask questions. What's super interesting, if you notice here, this is just a built-in tool to Gemini. So all you need to do is just wrap this as a tool, and then you can start asking questions about your documents. It's really that simple to get started. There's some other things you should be aware of, such as the fact that you can configure some of the chunking configuration. So as you can see here, you can change the number of tokens per chunk. So when you upload your documents into the Gemini file store, what happens behind the scenes is your document gets broken down into a number of chunks. And those chunks are what are given to the LLM to answer the question. You can define the size of those chunks, and then you can also configure things like the overlap tokens as well. Another really important thing to be aware of is that you can also define custom metadata. This is going to be super useful if you have a lot of documents. If you have hundreds of documents, you probably want to add some metadata that will allow it to be easier to search. So there's an example here where we upload a file and then we define things like the author and then the year as well. And then you can use that below. When we do a file search operation, we can do some kind of filtering here to narrow down the range of documents to search. Super useful to be aware of. And then also you get citations as well, which I will show you in the code. Okay, so let's jump into the code for this agent. So this is a simple Python project and we have a documents folder. So I've generated a bunch of PDF files here. So these are all of the PDF files that we're going to be uploading into our document store. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the setup file. And this is showing you how you would basically provision your file store and upload your documents to it. So before you start building your AI agent, you first need to have a file store, and then you need to upload your documents into that file store. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this code. We're just using the Gen AI API. There's nothing else going on here. We create a new file store, and then we upload documents. So what we do here, we iterate through all of the documents in this folder, and then we upload them to the file store. You just pass in the file path. And then finally, we can run a search query, and we can also delete all of the file search stores as well. So let's go ahead and just create a file store so we can see what that looks like. So the first thing we need to do is create a client. And then we're going to create a file store. I'm going to give it the name FAQ store. And then what we get back is an identifier. So this is actually the ID of your file store. So whenever you reference a file store, you want to use this ID. And then finally, we can upload documents to our file store as well. So we can iterate through all of the documents here, and then we can go ahead and then upload them. As you can see here, we've uploaded the file. And this will iterate through all of those documents. Okay, so now that we've uploaded our documents, in theory, we should be able to pass in the store. So using the previous store that we had before, we've uploaded 3 documents, and we should be able to ask a question. So let's ask a question. How long does it take to ship to Canada? And as you can see here, it came back with the correct answer. So it's used the documentation, 7 to 12 business days. And if we check the original documents, this is correct. So it's done the right thing. I also built a file search store manager. And what this does is it's just an abstraction that allows you to more easily manage your file stores. So we can go ahead and create this one. And we can take a quick look at the file stores we have available. So we can call the list stores. So we can call this operation self.client file search stores.list, and this will list out all of the file stores. So let's take a look at what we've got. Manager.list stores. As you can see, I've created a bunch of file stores here while I was testing, but you can see here that this one at the top has a bunch of documents in it. So we have 3 active documents. You can see here the display name and then also the actual identifier for the file store. So the next thing I want to show you is how to build a simple agent. Okay, so this simple agent, we are going to clear this window. So to build the most basic AI agent, this is the most minimal RAG agent ever. So firstly, what we're going to do is just use the Gemini client. So we're not building with any AI frameworks here. We're just using the client, the SDK, and we're passing in a system prompt, and then we're passing in a specific tool, which is the file search tool. So this is like a native thing that's built into the Gemini API now. So the system prompt is relatively straightforward. You are a helpful assistant. Only answer questions that come from your knowledge base. If the answer is not in your knowledge base, say, sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. This is really important because you want to ensure that your agent is only answering questions about the knowledge base, especially in a customer support scenario. You don't want the agent to be making up information or talking about anything else that isn't relevant to the specific use case that it has. So let's go ahead and test out this agent. So in order to initialize this agent, we need a store name. So I'm going to use a store name from a file store that I created previously. I'm going to say agent equals simple agent. And then we're going to pass in the store name as this, which is the identifier. And now we should be able to ask questions to this agent. So we can say agent.chat, hello. This is using the Gemini 2.5 Flash model, so it's relatively fast. And we can say agent.chat, how do I reset my password? And it gives me an answer. So as you can see, this information here, so to reset your password, it's giving me answers from my documentation. So because we have this tool enabled, Gemini is already able to figure out that in order to answer this question, it must use the search tool to find that information, and then it's using that to answer the question. Okay, and then this is the actual agent that I was demoing in the UI, and this is basically exactly the same thing. The only difference is this is a slightly more elaborate AI agent implementation. Again, it's important to point out that we're not using any AI agent frameworks. This is just really straightforward using the Gen AI client. We're not using LangChain or any framework here at all. It's really straightforward. All we're doing is we're passing in the client and the store name. And then we have a history, which is essentially the context window or the conversational history. And then we have a chat operation. So we can send a message and get a response, but this one maintains the conversational history. And again, we just pass in the file search store. But this time we also extract some citations from the response, and I'll show you what that means in a second. But essentially we iterate through the response and we pull out all of the citations. And we also just log the stuff that is coming back from the search tool. This allows us to do some kind of evals or just benchmark that it is doing the right thing and we're finding the right information. So let's go ahead and create this agent. So this time when we initialize this agent, we just need to give it a store name. So let's go ahead and create this agent. All right, so we passed in the same file store that we did before, but this time when we ask a question, we're going to have a bit more logging, so we'll be able to see what's actually happening behind the scenes. So we're going to say agent.chat, how do I reset my password? So what you can see here, we're actually logging the chunks that came back. So we pulled back 5 chunks from the database, and the first chunk has information about how to sign in. You can see the rest of it is truncated, but when we look at the response, you see here to reset your password. So again, we get the correct answer. We need to click sign in. And what you see at the end here as well is the citations. This is really useful. So we are able to say the agent answered that query, and then the document it used to answer that query is in the citation here. So as you can see, we used the customer support FAQ.pdf. And this is the right document. This is where the answer actually lives. And so you're able to cross-reference where the agent is getting its knowledge from. And then just the final thing to mention, I'm using a library called Chainlit, which allows you to build these interactive chat UIs really, really quickly. This is only for demonstration purposes. If you are doing a real production agent, you may choose to do your own UI, but the principles remain the same. The actual agent here is really, really simple. So when we create the chat application, we just initialize our agent, and then we just pass in whatever the user is asking directly to our agent. And that's pretty much it. So you can see here the response is just sending the user message to the agent. We get a response back, and then we send it back to the user. So this is really, really simple. I found this library pretty useful for building chat applications. You can see here it's called Chainlit. And we're also using the Google Gen AI client as well. And that's it. So that's all we're using for this application. So the Google file search tool is just a really powerful way to build AI agents without the complexity and the headaches of setting up your own RAG infrastructure. You can build a working RAG pipeline with just simple API calls without needing to manage all of the complexity yourself. I hope you found this video useful. If you do, please remember to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And if you want to get access to the code, remember it's linked below in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.